Hey, 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 friends, and welcome back to the Clinical Entrepreneur Podcast. I've got some clinical goodness coming your way. I always get asked clinical questions because I've been doing this for over 20 years and teaching webinars and teaching seminars. And so everybody always asks, and thyroid is always a big question. So I thought I would just give you my top 5 favorite recommendations for thyroid. So the thyroid, because it is the master gland and it's responsible for so many things in the body, there is often a dysfunction related to the thyroid that goes undiagnosed. And often the patient's blood work will come back and is completely normal. How often have we seen that? A lot. But the patient still feels bad. You can look at them and they present as a hypothyroid patient with or without, thyroid antibodies. But the patient just doesn't feel good. And you're looking at them going, I just know this looks like thyroid, but everything looks normal. Well, the thyroid, because of its key role in relationship to the adrenal glands and the ovaries, and of course the HP axis, there's so many other things going on. But indeed, even Henry Harrower said back in the 1930s, and the thyroid is kind of the central figure. So we want to think about thyroid at almost every turn. So if there's any kind of endocrine dysfunction, you can almost bet that there's going to be a thyroid dysfunction as well. So the thyroid is responsible for an unbelievable number of not only endocrine activities, but also just metabolic activities. And like any other gland, regardless, it needs certain nutrients to function, which we're going to talk about in the podcast here. Everyone always thinks about is iodine, right? Everybody thinks, oh, iodine, that's the one. If you have a thyroid problem, we'll just give you iodine. I could not be more against that. I don't want anything to do with that. And I used to be on that boat. Oh yeah, let's just give iodine. But after working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of patients with thyroid issues, I have found very few of them are actually deficient in iodine. I'm going to get to that. You'll know this is going to be one of the 5, but I'm saving it for last, almost last. So iodine's what everybody thinks, but I find that iodine is not needed in most cases. But before I give you some context about the recommendations I'm going to give you, I want to give you a little inside look at what my kind of process has been. So many of you know that I've used standard process for many years, like close to 20 years. I worked through about 10 different supplement companies before I landed with standard process. And I loved the MediHerb products. It was really a wonderful family, a great community, etc. And I was always a little bothered by some of the formulas and some of the synthetics and whatnot that they put in with the food ingredients. But, they worked and I got great results and so on. So over the last few years, some of the formulas have changed. They've taken out some of the things that we thought were really good and they've replaced them with things that aren't good, made label changes, didn't make notice about them. And then all of a sudden you look at the ingredients, you're like, wait a minute, how did that get in there? That is not a whole food nutrient. No. So I kind of started to think, I'm just not as happy with them anymore. And in the last 9 months, 12 months or so, there have been some other players that have kind of come to my attention. And so I'll give anything a chance. I will give anything a chance, but I am very, very picky and I'm very committed to using food to heal the body and not synthetic isolates. I don't want all those USP chemicals in the products. And probably 75% of standard process products have those in them. Like it or not, it's just a fact. Go read the labels. But I've used them and I've been super successful with them. And MediHerb really is no different. There's a lot of the synthetics in the other ingredients section. So anyway, all of that to say, I've been exploring and experimenting with some of these other products. And those are the ones I'm going to make the recommendations on today. So before you get your panties all in a pucker about this, I'm going to give you what I would have done before and what I'm doing now so that you have some context about why I'm making the change. Okay. You ready? Here we go. Supplement number 1 for the thyroid is a food-based multivitamin, specifically leaning toward the mineral side. Now, the thyroid, just like the other endocrine glands, needs a lot of minerals. So we want to make sure we get lots of good minerals, and we don't need a high amount of any of them. We just need little bits, especially when it comes from food. Because if we can just give a small amount of a mineral and jumpstart a process, the body often can take over, kind of like jumpstarting a dead battery in a car, right? We just need to give a small amount. The synthetics have trained us, or I guess psychologically programmed us, that we need high doses of vitamin C, high doses of vitamin D, high doses of vitamin A. Not true. When you're using food, the body's really efficient and it does not need those high doses. So what I would have used before, and I've used this for many, many years, is on the standard process side, I would have used Immuplex and maybe Trace Minerals B12. Those would be the ones that I would have used. And I would have done 6 Immuplex and I would have done 3 or 4 Trace Minerals. Now I'm using vitamin mineral from Doctor's Research and the dose is 2 to 3 per day. Super, super, super easy. And on standard process side, it's like, not exactly, but like Catalin plus Trace Minerals plus Immuplex. If they all came together and had a baby, it would be vitamin minerals. So 2 to 3 per day. That's what I'm using now, and I am loving it. In fact, I'm using that particular product for every single endocrine anything. Stress, hormones, thyroid, blood sugar, any kind of hormone or endocrine dysfunction. I'm using this vitamin mineral product, and it works great. All right, supplement number 2. This one is for the thyroid, protein and tyrosine, and here's why. I talk about this in my thyroid course, which, by the way, is being revised right now because of these changes that I'm talking to you about here. They're not in the course, so we've actually pulled it down. But I'll let you know when it's up and ready to go. It's a super comprehensive thyroid course. I mean, it's a monster, so I'm going to shorten it as well. But in that thyroid course, I talk about how there's a scaffolding that the thyroid hormones are built on. And this scaffolding is made from thyroglobulin, i.e. globulin protein, thyroglobulin, and tyrosine. And so both of those nutrients are very important for the body to be able to make thyroid hormones. It's the scaffolding on which the T4, primarily T4, is synthesized. So tyrosine, we want to make sure there's enough tyrosine available, and we need to make sure there's enough protein. Well, I think everybody has screwed up digestion. And if you've been hanging around with me for any amount of time, you know I'm always saying start with upper digestion. You have to get that piece fixed. Because if you don't make sure that the patient is, eating the right diet, that goes without saying. But if you change their diet, but you don't fix their digestion, they're not breaking their food down and they're not getting the nutrients. So it only makes sense that we would want to make sure that that upper digestion, and that means like hydrochloric acid, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, enzymes, all that stuff. So what I would have done before is I would have used for upper digestion something like Digest Forte, Zypan, AF Beta Food, maybe Enzicor, Beta Food. I've been in that range in there somewhere, 2 or 3 of those products probably. Now I'm having the patient use liquid bitters because the Digest Forte is gone up in price. So now I'm just having them use liquid bitters, and some patients have like their favorite bitter they like to use. If they can't find one and they don't know, I just say for now, just go get Angostura bitters. They're not perfect, but they'll work. And those bitters just upregulate digestion so well, and they're inexpensive for the patient. So I have them do liquid bitters, and then I'll use Digestipan from Doctor's Research and maybe Zypan from Standard Process if it's a little bit more of a stuck or stubborn digestive case. But my experience is that if I use bitters and Digestipan is just 1, maybe 2 capsules with meals, and the bitters are easy, it doesn't cost them anything. Not only is the patient's cost gone down, but I've also reduced their pill count, and I'm getting just as good a results. So there you go. So that's what I'm doing now. That's to make sure that we're getting adequate protein, right? I want that upper digestion working. As far as the tyrosine goes, I really didn't have a great way of getting that in them on the standard process side, but thankfully, Doctor's Research has a product called Vegetarian Tyrosine, and it works like a charm. So if you feel like nutritionally you need to provide that extra bit of tyrosine, you can do that, vegetarian tyrosine, and you just need 2 per day. You don't need very many. All right, supplement number 3 is going to be direct support for the thyroid. Now, this is one place, and I'm just going to be super honest. The only things we really had to work with, or I did, in the standard process MediHerb side was thyroid complex and thytrophin PMG. or Imuplex, trace minerals, that kind of thing. I was kind of limited as far as like the feeding or the nutrients of the gland, other than having to add in like selenium or, Cataplex E or zinc, or I would have to add in, and the protocols just ended up being so huge. And I never liked that. It didn't ever feel good to me. But that's what I had to work with. Now the game has major changed. Again, all of this information is being updated in the Mastering the Thyroid online course, but I'll let you know when it's ready. So there are 3 products that I am in love with from doctor's research, and I'm going to give you these 3 and just kind of a really quick overview of how each one of them works and when they would be most appropriate to use. The first one is called Metabolic Thyro. The dose is just 3 per day. You do not need to go over that. It's got a tiny bit of kelp in it. It's good for mood. It's great for fatigue when they get tired in the afternoon. It's especially great for younger women. So it's the strongest of all 3 of the products, and it's just got a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of kelp. In fact, the amount of kelp in there is so small that you actually could use this with a hyperthyroid patient without any concern about activating or overstimulating the thyroid at all. So why I love this is because it's such a dual purpose product, so we can use it both ways. And you can look at the ingredients. It's a great product. The second one is called Migratol. Same dose, 3 per day. Migratol has no kelp in it. So if you have someone who's sensitive to iodine, this is a good one. It's better for older women or younger women who have acne, hormone-related acne. So 25 and under, the acne patients, this is the one that you would want to use. And then also for patients who have migraines. So I just recently learned, and I did not know this, that 75% of all migraines in women are related to the thyroid. 75%, that's a lot. So I've been thinking about the thyroid differently as the master gland. We sometimes think, oh, I'm not going to support the thyroid because the thyroid numbers look good on a blood test. But I'm finding that just like we would think, okay, if we have a fertility case or we have a patient who's tired, we always think, well, we're going to go address the adrenals. Well, how come we don't just do that automatically with the thyroid? I think we've been kind of scared of it. But these formulas are beautifully designed and there's nothing to be afraid of. So let me review these first 2 again. The Metabolic Thyro, 3 per day, that's the strongest of all of the products, but it's not strong. So don't misinterpret what I'm saying. But it is the one that you could use for almost every woman, right? It's just really safe, tired, fatigue. It's great for lifting mood. It has a little bit of kelp in it. The next one is Migratol. This is the one you would use for migraines, right? Women under 25 who have acne or older women who we don't need to wake that thyroid up. We just need some gentle love on the thyroid. We don't need to go after it with the Metabolic Thyro. The third product from doctor's research is called Simply Thyroid. And again, the dose is just 3. This one you'll want to use with patients that are obese, where you've got a lot of weight. It may or may not even be related to the thyroid, but use this Simply Thyroid with obesity. It's much more gentle, and all it is freeze-dried bovine thyroid. That's it, but it's freeze-dried, which means that the enzymes are intact. So when the body gets that little bit of freeze-dried thyroid, oh baby, it's going to just know exactly what to do with the gland to help really rebuild. It's probably one of the better rebuilding supplements. You can also use this one if the patient is on synthetic hormones. It helps to get them off. In fact, I've been doing some more learning, and I thought I was super good with the thyroid, but there's always things to learn, and I'm learning new things. But I found out that if you feed the gland with the right nutrients, that almost every single thyroid will recover, meaning that the patient will no longer have to be on medication. How's that for a clinical outcome, right? So I'm really excited. This last product, the Simply Thyroid, that one can be a real game changer for your practice. So again, we want to pair the thyroid products, though, with those minerals. Remember, I said I'm using vitamin mineral. So you would use one of these 3 with the vitamin mineral to make sure that you're giving a good comprehensive support for the thyroid. Okay, number 4. This is my honorable mention. And of course, I alluded to it in the beginning, and that is iodine. Most practitioners that I talk to will say, oh, well, thyroid problem must be an iodine deficiency. And I could not disagree more. That is very rarely what the case is, because In nature, iodine is found in micrograms. In the body, it's in micrograms. Yes, the thyroid stores a lot of iodine, but that's no different than like the adrenal glands storing vitamin C and tyrosine. Like certain glands store certain nutrients. The liver stores iron. So it's okay that there's a lot of it in there, but in nature, in food, it's found in micrograms. So why are we dosing in milligrams? This makes no sense to me if we're talking about food. So what I want you to think about is the fact that the body has a very good recycling system for iodine. It recycles it very well from T4. If you want to know, there's one blood marker that will give you everything you need to know at a glance about iodine status, and that is total T4. Because the thyroid makes 95% T4. So if your total T4 is within normal range, and, right in the middle of the range, like if we're using optimal ranges, like functional blood chemistry, perfect. You don't need iodine. You're great. But if you're worried about it, if it's low or you think, I don't know, maybe, what I use is Celtic sea salt. Celtic sea salt has a beautiful amount of iodine in it, and it's got all those wonderful minerals. It's got like 82 different minerals in them, micro minerals. And so Celtic sea salt is a great way for you to support the thyroid, and it can be taken with the vitamin mineral product, but use Celtic sea salt. It's cheap for the patient. They need the salt anyway. They need all those minerals anyway. And if you're still worried and you don't believe me, fine, but go grab a urinary iodine test. The lab that I use is called Hakala. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Hakala, Hakala labs. And you can check the halogens and the iodine, because we know that the halogens will boot out iodine and mess with the receptors and whatnot. So you can see halogens like chlorine, bromine, fluorine. So you can test that if you want to. So Hakala, Hakala. But go grab that urinary test and you do a little bit of a challenge, and then it measures basically the excretion of iodine. But that's a great way for you to know for sure. But don't give iodine unless you know for sure. And then lastly, supplement number 5 is not really a supplement per se, but it's liver support. No, 60% of the thyroid hormones are metabolized and converted from T4 to T3 in the liver, 20% in the gut, and then the other 20% roughly is in the peripheral tissues. So the liver is the major factory for thyroid hormone conversion. So let's say that your T4 is normal and your T3 is low. First place I'm going to think is liver. What's going on with the liver? The liver's probably gummed up and not doing a good job. Well, why is it gummed up? Well, we know that it's because of all this toxic soup that we live in, the toxins in the food. The liver's meant to detoxify. It already knows how to do that. We've got phase 1, phase 2, the cytochrome P450 enzyme family does a great job of that. But the problem is that the liver was never designed to detoxify the extreme amount of chemicals, toxins, endogenous, but mostly exogenous toxins that we're exposed to on a daily basis. So in my opinion, everyone needs to have some kind of liver support always, but especially for a thyroid patient, because we want to ensure that T4 to T3 conversion happens well and it happens in the liver. So what I would have done on the standard process side is I would have used like Livoplex, maybe Livco. Livoplex is 6 per day, Livco is 4 per day. Both of those are going to be a bit spendy, especially the Livco, but you can use Liva Detox and support from doctor's research, and the dose is 3 per day. So not only is the cost better, but the dose is better. So the patient doesn't get overwhelmed. So if I had a thyroid patient, this is what my protocol would look like. I would do 2 to 3 vitamin mineral. I would choose one of those 3 thyroid feeding products. So let's just say I'm choosing Metabolic Thyro, and there would be 3 of the dose would be 3 there. And then I would do some kind of liver support, and the dose would be 3 per day. So that's 9 capsules per day. Maybe if I wanted to, I could add some vegetarian tyrosine. That gives me an extra couple. But that's it. No more big complicated thyroid protocols. Don't need them. All we need to know is what is the product that we can use that's not only economical for the patient, because everybody's screaming about prices right now. We all are. Inflation is up. Cost of everything is up. So how about we help the patients keep the protocol better? The cost of the protocol, they're more likely to continue to work with you because they can afford it. When you give them a protocol that's $500-$600 and it's full of standard process and MediHerb and all the things, people will bag out. They're going to say, I'd love to, but I can't. So how can we serve them better? Well, this is one way we can do that, by keeping the cost down and also keeping the pill count down. And it also gives you room in your protocol if you do need to add in something else, like maybe you're dealing with blood sugar or adrenals and you need to be able to give some adaptogens or something like that. So I've used the doctor's research products. I've mentioned them here. Gaia has a few products as well on their pro line that you could consider. But for this, what I'm talking about, I'm really finding phenomenal results using these products from doctor's research to really help support the thyroid. I did forget to tell you, on the iodine side, Standard Process has a product called prolamine iodine, and they've got iodine in a bunch of different products, but it's not from food. And so I don't like that. Now there's a thyroid complex that MediHerb has, and that has bladderwrack in it, which is a good source of iodine. So I like that. But I've just found that generally now I'm just going to stick with Celtic sea salt. If I get that test back on iodine and it really truly is low, that's when I'm going to go find a supplement. That's when I'm going to look and say, okay, what's the supplement that I can give that has the smallest amount of iodine? I am never going to dose in milligrams. Never, never, never. I will go micrograms, but I'm not doing milligrams because that's not how it shows up in nature. And I'm a bit of a purist that way. It's just my lane. Everybody has to pick their lane and stay in their lane. And this, my friend, is my lane. So I hope this helps you when you are navigating a thyroid case. And on that note, let me just tell you, if you have not yet signed up for the Functional Blood Chem wait list, because that seminar is coming up in October, but now is when you want to get on that wait list. We are dropping a brand new resource every single week for everybody who's on the wait list. And those resources are just going to help you be able to utilize and implement and monetize functional blood chemistry in your practice. So if you want some free stuff, go get on that wait list. All you have to do is go to rhondanelson.com/FBC, stands for Functional Blood Chemistry. You'll get notified when registration opens for the webinar. I teach this about once a year. The last time was about 18 months ago. So this is one of those seminars that practitioners tell me all the time, this is my hands down all-time favorite seminar. And it's one that you want to take 2 or 3 times because you can't get it all. And as you're developing your skill, you've worked with a few blood tests, you take the seminar again, you go, oh, I missed that the first time. But it's just because you're in a different stage along your journey. So the best place for you to do is go get on that wait list. Just go to rhondanelson.com/FBC and we will take really good care of you. All right, friend. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week on the Clinical Entrepreneur Podcast.